Creating music has been a proven way to bond and connect with others, and collaborating to create sound has brought people together long before the internet. However, there's a clear desire and audience for systems that provide an online collaborative music-making experience. This became obvious during the pandemic, as many turned to making music collaboratively through online means to experience and maintain their social connections in a time when people couldn't do that easily in person. In this project, I've developed an online application where users can create real-time procedurally generated music in an engaging and intuitive online environment. Let's see the site in action with a brief demo. When we first connect to the site, we start at the homepage. Here, we can see the different rooms we can join and how many people are connected to each. Let's join a room. Here is where our music making experience can begin. The room page is split off into 3 different panels: an ambience mixer, a 16-step sequencer, and a variety of instruments. Let's start off with the ambience mixer. On this panel, there are various different ambient sounds which we can turn up by using the volume sliders. For example, some fire, rain, crickets, or birds. We can use the toggle switches at the top to switch on or off these samples, or we can use the presets to switch to a predefined soundscape, for example, seaside, park morning, or evening campfire. We can use the reset button to reset all the sliders to 0. Let's move on to the sequencer panel. Here, we have 8 different drum samples across 16 different time steps. When we click a button, that sample at the specified time step will be enabled. Using this, we can create a drum pattern. Let's add some more drums. And now we've created a drum pattern. We can apply a low pass or high pass filter using the filter slider, or reset the sequencer using the reset button. Finally, let's move on to the instruments page. Here, we can control a various set of instruments which continuously procedurally generate music. When we hover over a slider, we can see what it does, such as volume, filter, or density, and as we drag a slider, we can see its value in the instrument box label. Let's increase the volume of the piano to start hearing it play. The density slider changes the melodic density of the instrument. For example, if we slide it to the left, we can hear the piano plays less frequently. Or, if we slide it to the right, we can hear it plays more frequently. We can add some more instruments, such as the flute, or marimba, Now we've gone through each panel, let's create a track. First, let's create some ambience to set a backdrop to our composition. We can apply a filter. And move on to the next panel. Let's add some instruments. Let's add some guitar. And a pad. And finally, we can add some drums. Let's increase the density of the guitar so it plays more often. we can freely navigate to the different panels and adjust each track. For example, we can change the ambience, or change the drums. And just like that, we've created an ambience track. If another user joins, they can also adjust any of the parameters or sliders of any of the panels, and we can see those changes happen live. During my background research, I found lots of existing technologies which implemented similar features to what my project aimed to do. For example, there's lots of ambience generators, where users can mix different kinds of sounds to create a relaxing and cohesive soundscape. I also found lots of sequencers and drum machines, which allowed you to create drum patterns, and even online DAWs, or digital audio workstations, which allowed users to create tracks together. Although there was lots of existing sites, not many of them were collaborative or offered real-time generation of music. Neither the ambience generators or drum machines I found offered collaboration, and the online DAWs, yet quite powerful and fully featured, they were more for contemporary music production, rather than generating real-time procedural music. I also researched procedural music in general, and found guides on how to create realistic and engaging music by following concepts such as repetition, harmony, and density, and found that procedural music was quite commonplace in interactive mediums such as video games. The aims of my project can be split into two rough categories. There's the technical aims, which involve actually creating the procedural music system, allowing for sufficient user control so that the users feel like they have control over the experience, synchronizing the states between all the connected users so that each experiences an identical musical experience, and maintaining low control latency with high rhythmic consistency. The psychosocial aims involve creating a bond between users, that they should feel a social connection to the other while they share the same musical experience, having some form of communication through the music where users feel that they can communicate non-verbally through the system and not rely solely on means like chat or voice, creating a relaxing environment with a system that's intuitive and stress-free, making an accessible system so users with little or no music experience can still create an experience that they can enjoy. The system should also be intuitive and not require a user guide to use. Since the user experience was such an important part of the project, it was crucial to get the design right. I took a lot of inspiration for the interface from real-world systems, such as mixing desks and step sequencers, and designed the interface so they look similar to these systems. The sound design is obviously quite an important part of the project. The instruments were chosen to integrate well with each other, and each generates their part in a unique and procedural way. I chose to implement the project as a web app, as it was the most accessible way for users to quickly access the project, with no installation being required. It's also cross-platform and viewable on a large variety of devices, which increases the accessibility and ease of use of the project, which is one of the requirements and priorities. I used the WebSockets protocol to provide two-way communication between a client and a server, which allows for the synchronization of system states, and used Django with the channels extension, which added support for the WebSockets API. To integrate the audio into the system, I used the Web Audio API. The audio system is comprised of 4 tracks, 1 track for each panel, and a UI track for triggering auditory cues when users interact with controls. To create melodies, I manipulate the pitch of samples by creating a map of frequency offsets to each note. By doing this, instruments can play different notes with only one audio sample, which means there are fewer audio files required to be loaded by clients, which lowers the network requirement for users to use the app, and therefore increasing its accessibility. Each instrument also generates melodies in a unique way by following a set of predefined rules. The instruments were also implemented in a way that users can change how they're generated in real time, using modifiers or parameters such as melodic density or with filters. Deploying the app also added additional complexity. I ran into some problems with beat consistency and overloading the WebSocket with too many messages. This required some network optimization in order for the system to be usable. Finally, to evaluate the system and assess how successfully it meets the requirement specification, a user evaluation was conducted. This comprised of 2 parts. First, there were tasks for the participant to complete, then they had to fill out a survey on their experience. The first task was an individual exercise, where the participant used the system to create a piece of music. Then, they were instructed to repeat a similar exercise, but with another user connected to the same room as them. After these 2 tasks, a user survey was filled out, which asked questions about the musical experience of the participant, their engagement and enjoyment of the app, and whether they thought they had enough control over the system. All of the participants responded positively to the experience, agreeing the system was enjoyable, immersive, relaxing, and engaging. Most of the participants also enjoyed the app more when they were with another person, and they generally felt that they had a social connection to them while using the app. Participants, regardless of musical experience, could also understand and feel immersed within the music-making process.